this is really, really weird. Like when you're a preacher and you go through different life stages, like that, whatever life stage you're in, right? It's like that's important in that moment, and you kind of share about those things. And Andy and I are in this weird life stage that we've never been in before. This transition to grandparent. And our children did not, let's just say they didn't move into that gracefully. In 2 years, we went from no grandchildren to 4 grandchildren. Like it just was like, let's just get this over with really quickly and we'll just do it all. And it's been really weird because Andy and I went from like raising our kids to releasing our kids out into the world, well, most of our kids out into the world. And like now we're being asked to be like short-term replacement parents to our grandchildren when they come over and when they hang out with us. And it's really cool, but it's also like it's different. Right? It's just different. And I think the biggest challenge we're facing as grandparents, as replacement parents, is that none of our kids parent their kids the way we parented our kids. Do you feel that? There's a line there that sometimes is it's a little tough to walk. You know, no screens, no sugar, no, and I'm like, how are we supposed to function? This is what we do. You're going crazy. Here, watch this. And like, your parents are coming in a few minutes. Have some candy. Like that's just how grandparents have functioned for like centuries or whatever. Like it's just really weird. And so as grandparents in this new kind of role, like we have real authority when our grandkids are with us, but it is borrowed authority, right? We're borrowing that from our children. And so when we have our grandkids, we give instruction, we set boundaries, we intervene, we correct when necessary, but we act in their parents' place without taking their parents' place. And so we're temporary. We're representatives of mom and dad. And if you're a grandparent, if you had to shift into that role, it's a different role. Like we have to relearn kind of how to function in this. And I was thinking this week, this is actually a pretty good example or way to process the role that humanity was given in the beginning, in Genesis chapter 1. Let me show you what I mean. Let's just go to Genesis chapter 1. It's the end of the chapter. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the ground." Like most of the stuff that happens on planet Earth, on the ground, we're given control of. And so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Now that's really weird. And I wasn't planning on talking about this, but like Adam was created first, but he wasn't created like alone. God planned from before Adam was created to also create, like it wasn't an afterthought. And so when the text says like God created man, it's God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created humanity, and he created humanity male and female. And I think there's a midrash and some other support for this, that man and woman together are images of God. Like we can't be, I want to be careful about how I say this because I want to use the word perfect, but let me just say that men and women, and by that I mean like all humanity, we represent God best when we're in relationship. When it's man and woman. And if either of those are separated from the other, we give a less clear picture of God. Okay, move on. Verse 28. God blessed them, this created humanity, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens, over every living thing that moves on the earth." And then he talks about, like, I've given you all this seed-bearing plants for you and for the animals and all that kind of stuff. And then later on, verse 31, he says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. The word is meod, good. It's much. It's like all of it. Like he saw everything that he had created. Remember, this is day 6. It's the end of day 6 of creation. And God saw everything that he had made, and he's like, this is just the way I want it. This is really cool. So I want to just ask first, did you notice the cooperative language that is present in Genesis chapter 1? God says, let us make, let them have dominion, male and female. God blessed them, and God said to them. And while our world is becoming increasingly isolated and feels like we're alone, we're focused on, like, it just seems like the world's focused on, like, individual rights. My rights. Don't step on my rights. It's humanity together that was created in God's image. It was humanity that's entrusted with God's work within creation. We try to make it all about me, whatever, all about groups, all about my side, all about us versus them. But really God says, look, everybody together functions in this role. And the role of humanity mirrors God's role, but it's restricted. Our role within the world mirrors God's role, but it's a restricted role. Like, think about it this way. In the first 25 verses of Genesis chapter 1, you have God, like, creating everything out of nothing. It's like God's voice, his force is acting upon creation, and he's making all of this stuff. And it's basically like, so whatever God wants to do, his power is at work in the world and creating what we see. But in verse 26, the language begins to shift. And God delegates a degree of dominion to humanity. And so we have God creating, and we have humanity cultivating that creation. We have God ruling over all things, and we have humanity ruling over some things. We have a God who possesses unlimited authority, and a humanity that possesses limited authority. And so bearing the image of God is not simply a status that we hold within creation. It's not just, okay, your image bearers, period. But it's a calling that we have been handed by God. And the calling is to make God's character, his faithfulness, his kingdom visible in the world around us. That was what God was doing in Genesis chapter 1. He says, hey, I created everything, I made everything, and I'm in charge of everything, but I'm going to give you charge of some things. And your role within that authority, that borrowed authority, is to rule the stuff put under your care as though you were me. We're to bear God's image to the world, to function in the world as God would function, or as God functions over the world. And really we see that in God's very first words to humanity, at least here when he's talking about them. They're words of blessing and words of purpose. Like, God gave humanity a commission before he gave them a prohibition. And I think that's important. I think it's an important distinction. Because what do we often do as parents or people? We're going to walk through a situation and we're going to tell whoever is under our authority what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't touch it. If you take your kids to the store, what is the first thing you tell them? Don't touch anything. We're all about restriction. We want to make sure everybody knows what not to do. But that's not what God does. The first things God says to his newly created creation is he says, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion over part of my creation. That doesn't sound restrictive to me at all. What God is really saying here, it sounds like, is he's releasing humanity to explore and to grow and to govern. And he's like, hey, like playground, it's recess time. Go have fun. You're going to represent me to the world. You're going to be my image bearers, but in that capacity, just get out there and explore and do things. It's authority, but it's entrusted authority. It's entrusted responsibility. God calls this rightly created creation very good. That this is the way I wanted it, and it's very good. It's just how I imagined it. This is exactly what I wanted. God over humanity, and humanity under God. But under God, humanity is caring for creation and honoring one another as equal image bearers in the world. That's how God created it. That's the order that he gave us. That's the way he created it. But it began to collapse almost immediately. Like within a page, right? Like this is the end of chapter 1. In chapter 2, we get like a recreation of creation, a retelling of the creation story it's like we zoom in on day 6 in chapter 2. And then by chapter 3, everything seems to just fall apart and go wrong. Cain refuses to live under God's authority. And he treats another image bearer, his brother, as disposable. Instead of ruling faithfully within creation, Cain seems to have wanted to rule over creation. God, I know what you said, but this is what I want to do. This act in Cain and Abel, this act is an example of what happens when someone created to reflect God begins acting as though they are God. And if I'm God, I get to do whatever I want, right? We're going to act as though we're in God's place. And that's not just a Cain problem. That's a humanity problem. That's an us problem. That's a problem that you and I have as humanity. And what happens here is that we try to reorder the created world around ourselves. Instead of recognizing the place that we come in the created order, we try to reorganize it around ourselves. And things just go wrong when that happens. In fact, I think Paul is remembering Genesis chapter 1 when he writes in Romans chapter 1. Let's look at what he says. He says in Romans chapter 1, "For the wrath of God is revealed," it's like God's judgment is revealed from heaven. He's already talking about the order of things. It's revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men. Now, notice that he's not saying that the wrath of God is directed at men. It's directed at the unfaithfulness, the unrighteousness, the ungodliness of men, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. So this is about truth, and we know that God is about truth. He goes on, verse 19, "For what can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them." Now go back to Genesis 1. In chapter 2 of Genesis, God kind of recreates creation in front of the eyes of Adam. So he creates the world in chapter 1, and then in chapter 2, we kind of zoom in, and God places Adam in a garden, and he recreates creation so that Adam can see it. What does that do? Adam will never have to guess, did God really create all of this? He never has to guess because God showed him. He told him the truth. And so Paul is saying, look, what can be known about God is plain because God's made it plain. He showed us. He goes on to explain his invisible attributes, his eternal power, divine nature. These are things that have been clearly perceived ever since what? the creation of the world. When he showed humanity, he had the power to make all of this. He goes on to end that verse, in the things that have been made, created. We understand the truth about God because there are created things in the world. For although they, humanity, knew God, they did not honor him as God. They didn't have him in his proper place, and they didn't give thanks to him. But they became futile in their thinking. Their foolish hearts were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools. There's a reordering. They exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images, get this, resembling mortal man, birds, animals, creeping things. Does that not sound like Genesis chapter 1? Therefore, it says, God gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, to dishonoring of their bodies among themselves. Because, why? Because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie. They worshiped and served the creature, the created thing, rather than the Creator, who was supposed to be blessed forever. And so, in Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1 shows humanity bearing God's image, exercising restrained or delegated authority within creation. But by Romans chapter 1, Paul says humanity is rejecting the Creator's place and worshiping images of things that the Creator created. Not just that, but images of things that the Creator placed under creation, under his image bearer. The order of things has been reversed. The things that were created down here that God said humanity was supposed to rule over and have dominion over and subdue, those things have become God. We've reversed the order. We are God's image bearers in the world, but we have elevated created things. And we have rejected not only our place in the created order, but God's place as well. When we begin to worship things that are beneath us in the created order, everything gets out of order. And so Paul gives us this picture of humanity actively suppressing the truth about God. And they're doing that in order to reconstruct life around themselves or on their own terms. If we take God off the throne of the world, then we get to do whatever we want. This is what happens when image bearers become false witnesses to the world. One of the 10 Commandments, by the way, is do not bear false witness. And when we reorder things outside of God's plan, we're bearing false witness to the world around us of how God created things, how God made the world. Humanity was created to tell the truth about God and about who He is, to reflect God, to reflect Him faithfully and honestly within the world that we live in His created world. As God's image bearers, we are to rule under His reign. God at the top and then us, and we rule the rest of the world. And we do that faithfully administering the authority that He has entrusted to us in the beginning. Romans shows us what happens when the exact opposite of that, when that order is turned upside down. Instead of bearing the image of God faithfully, truthfully to the world, honestly to the world, humanity exchanged the truth of the Creator for a lie that we made up. And we reversed the created order of things. Humanity exchanged the worship of God for service and worship of things that God had placed under our care. A reversal. But the image of God in us is not erased. The image of God in us, even if we try to remake it, we try to remake the world in our own image, we can't replace the way God ordered it. Like humanity may live as though God is not worthy of honor. Humanity can try to live as though his gifts exist apart from him, like they're two separate things. We can try to live as though his authority can be rejected. And we might pretend like things that he created can replace the creator. But that doesn't make it true. Humanity can reject God's authority, but it cannot erase God's or escape God's authority. We can try to replace it, but we can't escape it. God is on the throne. It's his world. He created it, and we can try to replace him and do all these other kinds of things, but we can't actually do it. We can't escape the created world, the created order that God made. And again, this is the great reversal of idolatry. We were given responsibility over creation, but we were never meant to replace the Creator. So when we attempt to reorder things, when we attempt to replace the Creator with created things, the things that were given over to us to rule in his authority, well, those things begin to rule over us. The image bearer ends up bowing down to an image. Humanity submits itself to things that it was created to subdue. Does that not just seem completely crazy? God says, look, these animals, these things that I created, they're supposed to be under your care. You subdue them. You have dominion over them, just like I have dominion over everything. But instead of having dominion over things, we've given them authority. We've shifted it. And I wasn't going to talk. I thought about talking about this. I think it's a good place to talk about this. I have noticed in our world today that we have done this with each other. Not just with each other, but in particular with our children. Children who, a bunch of them were up on the stage this morning. Our world and society kind of says to us now, look, if your child has an idea or they want to do something, well, if they choose it, they got to be right. We got to let them do whatever they choose. We got to give them autonomy. We got to let them choose what they want to do in their life. And I just got to say, children are dumb. You and I were children once, and we were dumb. Not because we're dumb, but because we don't have lived experience yet. We don't understand how things work. We don't understand this created order that God made yet. And so there's a reason God gave babies to parents. It's because we're supposed to follow this plan of God. We're supposed to parent our children like God would parent our children. We're replacement parents for them. And we're to raise them up the way God would raise us up, the way he would want them raised up. And when we give in to everything they want and we let them decide and them choose, we are giving authority to things that were put under us. Whew. That was a lot, and I just threw that out you. I'm sorry about that, but I'm not sorry about that. Because if you are a parent, you need to understand that. The idea that your child has may be great. And if it helps them in their life and it helps them be image bearers of God, then support that and help them and try. But we were never to give authority over to our children, because they're not wise enough to make decisions for themselves. That's why we say, I know you want to do that, but you can't do that now. And maybe it's not no forever, it's just no for now. At some point, you are going to be your own person and get to make your own decisions. And at that point, you do whatever you want to. You're out of my control. But here's that thing. Man, I used to hate this. As long as you're under my roof, as long as I'm paying the bills, as long as I'm in control, as long as I have this authority from God to raise and parent you as a fellow image bearer, to be the best version of yourself that you can be, as long as that's my responsibility, I'm going to take it seriously. And I'm going to raise them. Okay, let's get back to this. When we get these things out of order, the image bearer ends up bowing down to an image. And it's completely crazy. Humanity submits itself to what we were intended to subdue. And in rejecting God, we try to rule ourselves. But when we do that, we do not become free. Think about the people you know who have tried to throw off authority and rule themselves. I'm going to do this even though mom and dad don't want me to, even though I know I shouldn't do it. I'm going to do it myself because I can. And then a few years later, they're in a place that they never wanted to be because they've reversed the order. When we reverse that order, we place ourselves under the rule of inferior things. And that is not where God intended us to be. Because when things become gods, people become things. When things become God, people become things. And idolatry, in whatever form it takes, elevates the position of things and it devalues people. Now, most sermons, messages, devotions that you read or listen to about idolatry are going to come to this point in the message, and they're going to ask you to consider, do I love money? Is money my idol? Is power my idol? Is position my idol? And 98, 99% of people in church are going to respond, no. No, God, I'm here on Sunday. I gave some money in the offering. Clearly, money is not my idol. Power is not my idol. I'm good. And we walk out the door on Sunday morning feeling good about our spirituality and ourselves. But I think we need to ask some different questions. I think the questions we need to ask ourselves are things like this. How do I treat people when profits are on the line? If you're a manager, entrepreneur, you own a business, whatever, how are you treating the people under you when profits are on the line? That will give you a better idea of whether money or power position is your idol. What about this one? Are people who interrupt my comfort, are they frustrating to me? And comfort can just be your normal routine, like work or school or home or whatever you're doing. But if somebody interrupts that, does it make you angry? What about this one? And there's like primary election on Tuesday, or some election on Tuesday. I've been in VBS all week. I don't know what's going on. Something's coming up on Tuesday, so maybe this one's a good one. Can I genuinely care for, help, love even someone who votes differently than I do? I'm on a roll this morning, and your captive audience, let's just make this a little more personal. If your next door neighbor puts up a sign that says yes to data centers, how do you respond to them? Like, that's a big issue right now, right? Like, there's lots of stuff going on, and people are very passionate. But if somebody disagrees with you, what do? Because in our world today, when we've reversed the order, all of a sudden we say to that person, your opinion doesn't matter. I can devalue you. I can throw my trash in your yard. I can call you names because you clearly aren't smart enough. Let me make it personal to me, because in the ministry we can get caught up in this as well. And so the question for me might be like this. Am I more interested in how many people show up on Sunday morning or how big the offering is? Or am I looking for relationships that are slowly being restored, like marriages that are being put back together, spiritual growth in different areas of people's lives, just relationships within the congregation, like are people getting to know one another and functioning well? Are there new responsibilities being taken on? What's more important? Because if the numbers are more important, then all the people just become objects. They just become things to help us get to where we want to be. Idolatry is never a private thing. Because what we worship always reshapes our relationships. What we worship in that vertical kind of order that God created affects how we relate to other people. And so we need to ask ourselves, what happens to the people in my life when I protect, pursue, or serve the thing that I worship? What happens to the people in my lives when money is most important? What happens to the people in my lives in the relationship when comfort or success or politics or power are more important to me? What happens in my life when that coworker that I have is up for the same promotion, the same raise that I am? Am I going to point out their flaws and stab them in the back so that I might get the promotion instead? How am I going to relate to people? And that question, understanding how we're relating and treating the people around us, will do a lot more in revealing what our idols are functionally in our lives. Now let me give you a opposite of this, because Jesus is the one faithful human who refused this great reversal. And he lived in the right order. Jesus is the true image of God, who perfectly honored the Father and loved other people. He showed us what humanity, rightly under God's authority and God's reign, what we were always meant to look like. And what we were meant to look like is to have these two things together, loving God and loving others as inseparable things. It's why the New Testament tells us, if you claim to love God yet hate your brother, the love of God is not in you. There's an idol on the throne of your life if you hate your brother. That's not the kingdom order of things. And so maybe the cleanest way for us to kind of kick off this idols series is for you and I to identify in our lives it's an idol, and it's not to ask, what do I love more than God? I think the question should be, who gets pushed aside when my thing gets threatened? My power, money, position, comfort. Who gets pushed aside? Who gets devalued? Who gets canceled when my thing isn't the most important thing? Who becomes an interruption? Who becomes competition? Who becomes useful to me, but only when they help me get the thing that I want? That's where the idols are in our lives. That's where they begin to show up when we ask ourselves those tougher questions. Not just what we say we value, because we're all going to say, oh, I'm a Jesus follower, I love God. But in what our worship of what we value is doing to the people around us. So today, I don't want you to just kind of name a thing. Well, this is my idol and I'm going to work. Because most of us will not name the real idols that we have in our life. Like, we'll throw something out there, but it's really not the main thing. And so I don't want you to just name something and move on. Today, I want to invite you to notice a person in your life. Who has been devalued in your life because something else was elevated? And what would surrender to Jesus in that area change about how you treat them? How are you going to treat that person who's up for the promotion or raise alongside you if Jesus is really on the throne? How are you going to treat that person who votes differently than you do if Jesus is on the throne of your life? I think that's the way bigger question. If you'd like to pray with someone today, or you're ready to take your next step with Jesus, we would love the opportunity to connect with you here at Real Life. In just a moment, I'm going to pray. But if God is stirring something in your heart, maybe you're like recognizing, like, man, I've pushed some people aside. We want to give you the opportunity to pray with somebody, talk with somebody about that. Maybe you've been coming for a while and you just want to know like what the next step is. Maybe you want to know about baptism, about becoming a part of the church. If there's a question on your heart that God is working in your life, we invite you to get up and go with our care team out to our family room and have a few moments to pray and talk with somebody. They'd love to help you in any way that they can. And if you're joining us online, we're so glad to have you here as well. There are links on the video description or on the page that you're looking at. And if God's moving your heart, we want to know about it. You can also reach out to our online hopes, Tanya and Colleen and Vernon on there. And they're almost every week. And so we'd love to have you connect with them. They'd be happy to point you in the right direction or pray for you. So we're going to pray. And so while our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed, if you feel a little nervous, wait for that moment, and then you can get up and head back with our care team back to the family room. And it's real safe and comfortable back there, so don't be afraid. Let's pray, and then you get up and go. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and this time to be together and to really evaluate not just what idols we have, but really how we treat the people around us. Because how we value them is directly tied to how we value you. And if our lives are correctly ordered under your reign and authority. And so God, help us to notice that this week, to see those areas where we may be trying to push another image bearer aside in order to get that thing that we really want. Help us not just to notice that, but then like prick our hearts in the midst of that. Like show us, reveal it to us. Because God, we want to order our lives correctly under you. We want to walk this way because when we tell the truth about who you are, the world becomes a better place. Our lives are rightly ordered, and then other people see that, and it's appealing and attractive to them. So help us to be good image bearers, to follow your son Jesus as he like lived this out better than anybody else. And so we want to look and live and love more like Jesus, because Jesus had this created order of things in the right order. Thank you for that, God. I thank you for each and every person here. Would you stir within us a desire to be good image bearers of yours in the world, at work, at school, in the grocery store, on the highway, every place we find ourselves where we're interacting with another image bearer. Help them to see Jesus in us. And God, just thank you. Thank you for calling us, for loving us, and for bringing us here today. In Jesus' name, amen. So when we live out these kingdom principles in our world, God is honored as God, right? And created things return to their proper place in our life. And people are received as fellow image bearers rather than objects for us. And humanity returns to life under the reign of King Jesus, the way that he intended. And so this week, ask God to reveal places in your life where people have become things and things have become idols. Recognize them, name them, and then begin to reorder them correctly. Next Sunday, we're going to hit part 2 of this idols series, and we're going to look at what happens when good things are given the wrong throne. Because even good things can become idols in our lives. We're going to talk about that next Sunday. So love to have you back for that. Thanks for your time and attention today. It was great having the kids up here and getting to see them singing and worshiping and loving Jesus, the things that they learned and are volunteers. Thank you to all of you again. Thank you for being here. And hey, if you are new to Real Life, again, we got lots of new people, and I haven't had the chance to connect with you yet. I'm going to try something different. Never done this before, and it's actually going to really throw me off, so don't leave me hanging. If you are new, I am going to be in the Welcome Center, which is just on the other side of this wall here. And I would love the chance to meet you and say hi to you if you've been coming for a while or if this is your very first Sunday. I'm going to actually go off the stage this direction. I have never done that before. 3 years, I've never gone off that side of the stage. So I'm a little nervous about it. I don't want to trip and fall or make a fool of myself. But anyway, yes, come help me. I need a railing. Anyway, if you're new, come say hi to me. I'd love to connect with you anyway. Thanks for being here. I know a lot of you came, family members that come see the kids. Thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a great week. I love you, and I'll see you next Sunday.